Making It Personal with Bishop William Joensen on Iowa Catholic Radio and iowacatholicradio.com.
Welcome to Making It Personal with Bishop Joensen. I'm Kelly Messer Collins of the Diocese of Des Moines. On today's show, we're visiting with Bishop Timothy Doherty of the Diocese of Lafayette in Indiana. Bishop Doherty earned his Bachelor of Arts degree from St. Ambrose University in Davenport and later served the Diocese of Rockford, Illinois, before he was installed Bishop of Diocese of Lafayette. But before we get to today's interview, let's find out what's on the Bishop's mind.
Looking forward to engaging Bishop Doherty. He's a wise man with a great perspective on things and some Iowa ties there that we'll explore as well. But my goodness, Kelly, the State Fair has come and gone. You know, Iowa Catholic Radio, again, sponsored its booth there, and the permanent deacons of the diocese. I haven't had a chance to chat people up, priests who made themselves available for the sacrament of confession, but we did not broadcast live from the fair. So, last year it was a great experience. I know. Try here's a tissue for your tears. Beyond the craft beer tent, there were a few other things worthy to stop by.
Yes, many things.
But no, I think as Pope Francis calls us to engage people where they're at, and I think that's one of those opportunities. And grateful that Iowa Catholic Radio did that also. I was privileged then, not only last Sunday with Stan Ash's Mass of Candidacy at the Basilica, but then heading right off to St. Pius X as they bless. We think about Catholic education, but as they bless their newly expanded and enhanced facilities there, kind of centered in the school complex and all that they're about. So a parish dinner followed. Thanks to Father David Fleming, the pastor, for preaching the Mass. And I think it's another feather in the cap for not only that parish, but for the diocese. So all that we do to provide the facilities that obviously will enable people to flourish in so many ways, whether it's our pre-K or other age groups that are there. We know the protection of children is a vital piece of this on so many levels, and we think about the horror of Uvalde, Texas, and all that happened, which will forever mark those lives, those who were lost, those who died in the wake of it. And I think it's been a moment of sober reflection for law enforcement and for others. But our church steps forward. We think about Catholic Extension, the long time, centuries-long outreach that used to also have a footprint here, even in the Diocese of Des Moines and the people out in Basilica and those parts of the diocese. But Catholic Extension is providing a program for the children and who were traumatized, who were part of that school, who survived. But now I think that the really hard work, and so Catholic Extension has had sisters and others sponsoring a Camp I Can, the St. Henry d'Osso project in Uvalde, to give those 3rd, 4th, and 5th graders a safe space to heal, have fun, and to find a school-like setting, which might, can you imagine walking into any school? Obviously, they're not going to go back to that site again. I think a new school is going to be built. But Sister Dolores Aviles and 13 other religious sisters providing, we think about Vacation Bible School, but how this is, I think, just a moment of therapy and a return to a rhythm of life, and hopefully can provide some healing and allow that innate joy that young people have and that we want to provide. Tomorrow, the Feast of St. Monica, her son, yields to the Lord on Sunday, St. Augustine's folks, but St. Monica, the patron of all mothers, particularly those who have anguish in their heart, who long for their children to embrace Jesus, to live their faith, and how by her tears, by her own steadfastness, ultimately seeing the fruit of that prayer in the conversion of her son Augustine, who was living, let's say, an interesting life. He was looking for love in all the wrong places that might be there. But again, not to lose sight, too, that she also won her husband over after some 30 years of prayer. And her husband, let's say he was a character, but how she, too, was hung in there in that marriage and ultimately was an apostle of evangelization right in the home. And I think that's what we want to be about. So looking forward also to next week as the school year gets underway with Dowling Catholic High School and their opening Mass of the Holy Spirit. We're going to introduce Father Reed Flood as their chaplain, Father James Downey now taking the faculty, and we'll look to celebrate with them.
All right, we're going to take a quick break. You're listening to Making It Personal with Bishop Joensen.
Support for Iowa Catholic Radio provided by Knights of Columbus, Borman, and Pfeiffer Agency. Serving the Catholic families in Iowa, the Knights of Columbus is a fraternal benefit society providing financial security to members and their families, specializing in life insurance, long-term care insurance, disability income insurance, and retirement annuities. You can reach Knights of Columbus Field Agent Gregory Waddle at 563-689-6801. That's 563-689-6801. Thank you, and God bless.
St. Vincent de Paul helps so many people.
You're right, Zoe. St. Vincent de Paul Executive Director Steve Haveman here. We are serving over 32,000 local residents with food, clothing, furniture, and financial assistance annually. We invite you to learn more about all of our life-changing programs that positively impact so many Iowans by simply Googling St. Vincent de Paul of Des Moines. Our mission is to help those in need become self-sufficient through education, community connectedness, and unconditional support. Help us, help others.
Even kids!
Welcome back to Making It Personal with Bishop Joensen. On today's show, we're visiting with Bishop Timothy Doherty of the Diocese of Lafayette in Indiana. Bishop Doherty earned his Bachelor of Arts degree from St. Ambrose University in Davenport, Iowa, and later served the Diocese of Rockford, Illinois, before he was installed Bishop of the Diocese of Lafayette in July 2010.
I'm so delighted, Bishop Doherty, you accepted the invitation to be on. You know, in my relatively young time as a bishop, coming up on 3 years here, the times that we've crossed paths at the collegial listening session at Hales Corners or other bishops' gatherings, your wisdom, your insight, and you're down to earth, Midwestern manner. I feel a certain connection and kinship with you. So the show is called Making It Personal, and just a little bit maybe about yourself. Kelly noted the St. Ambrose connection, which are our neighboring diocese of Davenport, but you're no stranger to these parts.
Well, thank you. And again, I'm glad for the invitation. And I also feel comfortable in speaking with you. I don't know how folks here at Midwestern I am, but that's just a benefit, I think, of my birth and background. I would be remiss. People think bishops come out of nowhere. And my mother's still living at 96. I have 4 sisters and 2 brothers, and they're living with their spouses and children.
What a blessing.
So I've got a family in the background. I've been bishop here for 12 years in Lafayette, Indiana. Before that, I was a pastor in the Chicago suburbs and had done stints in healthcare and the Illinois Catholic Health Association and ethics, and I taught high school by fits and starts for about 14 years, so I have quite a varied background and a great deal of, when I go out and do confirmations, I always kind of preach to the parents with the understanding that to be the parent of a teenager is a challenging time, and they need all the help they can get. So the kids might not understand my homilies, but I think the parents appreciate that I'm supporting them in their faith and their vocation as well. So that's a little bit about me. I've been here for a while. Our diocese runs from Illinois over to Ohio, and we have
the whole northern swath then of the diocese.
We got 2 dioceses to the north of me, but we cover 9,000 square miles here, and the south end of our diocese cuts off the north part of the city of Indianapolis. Nobody dreamed this in 1944 when the diocese was created, that there'd be that kind of growth either on our side of the line or in Indianapolis. So that's where we're at. And we're
Can you relate to that a little bit, just the Rockford Diocese, because that touches on, as you said, the Chicago metropolitan area. Is that right?
Yeah. Both of our dioceses have a rural end and an end toward a bigger city. So I served in different parts of the Rockford Diocese, which went between the Mississippi River and Dubuque, all the way over to 2 counties, which comprise the Chicago Archdiocese. And so we experience the same thing here. We go between kind of shrinking rural communities to unbelievable suburban growth around Indianapolis, which continues. On my drive home, I had to take a detour off the interstate and discover just huge amount of growth in a number of towns inside and outside of our diocese. Like the Rockford Diocese, we experience a pretty good influx of immigrants from a variety of countries, Central and South America, Burma, Honduras, and so Haiti. We had a huge resettlement from Haiti here about a year and a half ago. So we're a mix that's pretty typical of this part of the country, and in a good number of places there are industrial jobs and agricultural jobs available to people. So that is helping to fuel our growth. Don't know what else I could say that's important at the moment, but
that's
are.
It's just a nice snapshot.
There's to give you one piece of a snapshot of how disparate our populations are. Our largest parish near Indianapolis has more registered Catholics in it than there are Catholics in our 9 northernmost counties. And when you're dealing with that kind of a contrast, we had consultants in a couple of years ago, and they said, "Bishop, you really are the bishop of 2 different dioceses, 2 different cultures, 2 different sets of needs." And so but it's not unique to me. It's all over the Midwest, as far as I know.
There are aspects where I can definitely relate in terms of the explosion of the western part of the Des Moines, the Polk County, and beyond, and the influx of immigrants, diverse. I can't say that we have any really Haitian population. Was that something that your diocese aided that or participated in helping to bring those, or it's just now that they're there, you're ministering to those folks?
I'm unique in a lot of ways, and we're, I suppose, one of the few dioceses that doesn't have a Catholic Charities. It was disbanded about 25 years ago because there were so many other services providing the same thing, and because we cover such a distance, there was no way to have a unified or a uniform service to all of our communities. So individual parishioners and parishes will aid with these things and do request to be included on lists, whether it's a government agency resettling or Catholic Charities out of Indianapolis. So we participate, but sort of at the edges of those things.
Okay, and I just want to note, as you know, your varied ministries. I know Boylan Catholic High School in Rockford. Always loved it when I was at Loras College. The undergraduates, if they came from Boylan, I knew they could write and speak well. They knew what an English sentence was, and usually there was some pretty stalwart faith there too by those young people. So they were always people we looked to as leaders within the larger campus community. So your legacy continues in that respect. Did you have a choice of undergraduate, or was that something you were already thinking about priesthood that you ended up at St. Ambrose?
We already had a couple of guys that were in the college seminary ahead of me, and my parents didn't go to college. I didn't know anything about college apart from names, and so I expressed an interest in doing this, and the diocesan vocation director said, "Well, why don't you join these other guys at St. Ambrose?" And so that's where I went. I know it's shocking to people today where people take time and they go visit various college campuses and they interview college departments, and I did none of that. The first time
they look at the wellness facility and all that.
The first time I saw St. Ambrose was the day I showed up with my trunk. I just went there. So, I describe so many events in my life is like jumping out of a plane in the dark with a parachute, and you don't know whether you're 500 feet in the air or 5,000 feet in the air. You just jump out and you land. And I was very pleased with my time at St. Ambrose. I look back and I had a very rich education, morally, politically, ecclesially. It was the late 60s, early 70s, which was a really crazy time on campuses everywhere. But it was a great place to view that part of the 20th century, and a couple of very violent years. People forget the campus demonstrations, the assassinations of Robert Kennedy and Martin Luther King, or all these things going on. I was kind of unaware of it, but about a month before I started college, the Pope issued his encyclical on birth control. And, that was also part of a cultural change going on that hit our U.S. culture in a large way, as it did a lot of places in the world.
That would be maybe a topic for another time, but even now, the Humanae Vitae, the encyclical on birth control and the Church's moral stance is another topic, as the Pontifical Academy for Life is kind of looking at that and maybe revisiting that. And so I think it'll be a moment of reflection where we'll look to the Holy Father and that. You have had a hand, your unfolding ministries. Bioethics became a piece there where you got the terminal degree in Christian ethics. How did that also season your ministry along the way, and even now your role as a shepherd?
I always had an interest in some moral issues. In fact, when I really wanted to do a license in moral theology back in the early 80s on why was the antibiotic medication never questioned, because it also had a huge effect on population growth. But it was perhaps fortunate that the professors who would have been expert in that field were on a sabbatical that year. So I wrote on a Norwegian author named Sigrid Undset and her vision of constancy in marriage, and so that I did. So I had a medical curiosity all the way along, and also from being a parish priest and encountering people in all kinds of medical and hospital situations. I just thought, there's a lot to know here, and a lot to be. I wanted to be able to help people with factual information and help them make good decisions based on the faith values that they professed. So as time went on, the state of Illinois was beginning discussion about physician-assisted suicide, euthanasia, and my bishop called me in and he said, you're ready for a change. I need somebody to sit at the table with these discussions, and you need your union card, and a doctorate is a card to sit at the table. So I want you to go do that. So I finished that so I could be part of the Illinois conversation, not just in terms of our Catholic hospitals, but also the legislative processes that are still current in a lot of states. And as people may know, Canada almost overnight switched its laws regarding assisted suicide without any kind of a vote. It was just kind of legislators and the Supreme Court up there were besieged by petitions for this, and it became an automatic part of their law, which it runs counter to our respect for human life. So all of these things are still at play in my ministry, and I'm in a diocese now which has a huge amount of Catholic-sponsored health care. It may be I may have more of it and more Catholic hospitals than most other dioceses in the country. So I'm in a unique position here.
Obviously, as we engage our Catholic institutions and people who share our faith commitments, we can speak a certain language. We can bring in values from the Scriptures and from our Catholic moral tradition. But when it comes to that legislative engagement or a broader audience, trying to make that argument in the public square, we have to be able to speak a language that is common to all. And so, from the perspective of ethics and things, it sounds like you're bilingual in that respect. That you're able to do that.
Oh, thank you. That makes me feel good.
But that's obviously a topic. I wrote my license thesis on physician-assisted suicide, and why would a virtuous physician, a physician who's truly fulfilling his active profession, why he would not, she would not perform physician-assisted suicide as a kind of betrayal of the very identity of a healthcare professional in itself. And so, that we can hopefully continue to appeal, and even though we know some of the latest HHS directives and things which will be contested for public discussion and things that are part of that. So yes, you had a role with the Catholic Health Association, but more recently maybe we could turn to consider, and you just kind of handed on the yoke of being the oversight of the USCCB, the U.S. Bishops' Committee for the Protection of Children and Young People, to Bishop Johnston of Kansas City, St. Joe, our neighbor to the south here. How was this? Maybe yes, it shows. I think the regard and respect that brother bishops had for you to place you in this role, and then how was that challenging, and what gives you maybe hope, and what things that you saw in the church's desire to truly be what we were called to be.
It's been a very important part of my ministry, and I think because of the number of people on the committee, the professional staff at the USCCB that deals with child protection, and most importantly, a thing called the National Review Board, which is a group of professionals. It could be lawyers, counselors, trauma counselors, people who have dealt both legally and clinically with sexual abuse situations. There's that review board that sits in conversation with the Bishops' Committee, And I think all my work in healthcare caused me to be a good listener and respectful of the expertise that these people have. And they are not a yes group. I think people think, well, any group talking to the bishops, they've got to be, somehow obedient to the bishops.
Deferential or whatever.
Yeah. And I got to tell you, these people were very frank and demanding, and at least in their mind, always ahead of where the bishops' conference is in terms of the standards that we set. And so anyway, it was a great ministry, and I learned a lot. It is necessary, I'd say, as time goes on. We still are trying to serve the people who were victimized, some of whom 50, 60 years ago. One of the good learnings was the peak of the incidence of abuse of minors was between 1975 or 6 and 1981. That was here in Canada, Australia, and nobody knows the reason. So there's still a big puzzle that we're very serious about, because if we could find the cause, then you could help prevent it from recurring. But there are all kinds of people inside and outside the church professionally taking a look at that. So it gives bishops and pastors and parishes a tool to keep safe environments for our kids and our parents, but also our workers. Anybody who works for the church or is a volunteer for the church needs to know what our standards are, so they know the safe parameters in which they may operate and comfortably minister. So that really is, I hope, the upshot of the church's child protection and safeguarding efforts is, yes, to protect minors, but also to be of service to the adults who do ministry in our church.
That's very informative, and I think maybe that broader lens, but we're going to pause here for a moment, and hopefully you'll stay with us, Bishop Doherty.
We're going to take a quick break. You're listening to Making It Personal, Bishop Joensen.
Support for Iowa Catholic Radio provided by the Sarah Vocations Ministry, including the St. Sarah Club of Des Moines and the Sarah Club of Council Bluffs. Sarah is an apostolate of the Worldwide Catholic Church dedicated to fostering and supporting priesthood and religious vocations. Sarahans strive to accomplish their mission through prayer, fellowship, and service to the bishop, priests, sisters, and all in religious formation, and in doing so to increase their own holiness. Learn more at joinsarah.org, joinserra.org. Thank you, Sarahans, for your support of Iowa Catholic Radio.
Support for Iowa Catholic Radio provided by InterVisions Healthcare. Each fall, InterVisions Healthcare hosts a fantastic evening of food and fun with the local Knights of Columbus. Join us as we dance the night away on Saturday, September 17th at St. Luke's in Ankeny. The St. Luke's Knights are preparing a delicious dinner. All the proceeds from the dinner and auctions benefit the life-affirming work the nursing staff provides to women with unplanned pregnancies. For more information, visit ivhcare.org or give us a call today. We look forward to seeing you on September 17th as we dance for life at St. Luke's Catholic Church in Ankeny.
Welcome back. We are back with Bishop Timothy Doherty of the Diocese of Lafayette in Indiana.
So thank you again, showing that our concern for the protection of children affects all of us who are collaborating in the not only education, but in parish ministry, all the ways in which volunteers and all that come forward. And obviously the revisions in the Code of Canon Law are also taking this into account in terms of the formation and the potential for harm that would come to people, for vulnerable persons in a broader way. But we're about 20 years beyond the Dallas Charter, the charter that was the kind of signature moment, a watershed moment for the Church in America, the Charter for the Protection of Children and Young People. Is that a dynamic, evolving document? And you talked about working with professionals in this way. And you early on, you mentioned also the ferment of a college environment in the late 60s and 70s. How it's I guess mere speculation that the sexual revolution and how it permeated the church too in the late 70s and 80s, and that the healthcare professionals themselves, the science was catching up, that priests who had committed sexual crimes could not be rehabilitated. And so, just any thoughts you have, that's kind of a broad swath I'm tracing here, but anything that, the growing insight and understanding and the evolving character of the Charter.
There is an evolution in how the Charter is viewed, and itself is very difficult to revise. But among the things that have come to our attention that affect the environment in which we make our judgments is the Me Too movement was a huge step in terms of not only the treatment of minors, but the treatment of women, the relationship between adults, whether they're employees or volunteers in the church. What are the adult boundaries for appropriate behavior? And the lines have been moving on that over time. And the pressure on the charter was, should the charter include infractions of clergy? And the charter only deals with clergy, so priests and deacons. Their behavior, should it include their behavior toward adults as well as children? And to this point, we haven't made that jump. Some dioceses have put their review boards together to handle adult cases and minors. The bishops as a national organization have a limited scope in this charter. And it sounds odd, but it is easier to adjudicate issues regarding child safety and where somebody's crossed the line there. When you get into adult behavior and then you begin to involve state employment laws, and you've got 50 different states with 50 different standards about what's acceptable or not, what's criminal or maybe only a misdemeanor, then to have a national policy on that would be extremely difficult, almost impossible. But that's something the review board keeps before the bishops' committee all the time. Are we aware of our boundaries? And so that's been a good thing. I would say overall the charter has served us well. Also, and it still happens that various other organizations, other churches will approach us and say, we're way behind the 8 ball. Could you please give us some advice on how to handle these situations? So I know for a fact from my time on the committee that the NCAA came to a couple of bishops and said, we've got some internal issues here. How should we handle this? And we know that school districts, some places in the United States have been slow to, let's just say, make judgments and policies about what's acceptable behavior and what's not. And so we've got that experience, which has stood us in good stead. I'm not saying that, the church isn't so bad, look at all these other institutions. That's the kiss of death when you enter the public conversation and try and compare the church with somebody else whose problems are yet unresolved or unaddressed. We're trying to take care of our own house and our own people and be faithful to our own commitments and responsibilities. So,
Thank you, Bishop Doherty. We're winding down on our time here, but very instructive and illuminating. And you mentioned the NCAA. I guess you'll take the flack of wearing a Purdue hat when you go to the Purdue Notre Dame game, go to Purdue University. But really appreciate this conversation and perhaps look to engage you sometime in the future.
Bill, thank you very much.
This has been another edition of Making It Personal with Bishop Joensen.
You can hear Making It Personal with Bishop William Joensen every week on Iowa Catholic Radio and iowacatholicradio.com.
Support for Iowa Catholic Radio and Making It Personal is provided by Sarah Vocations Ministry. Learn more at joinserra.org.